Monday marked a full year of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Who would have thought that this catastrophe would have lasted an entire year? Let's dive into what's going on over there, make some predictions, and discuss how it affects your money in the markets. The fog of war and propaganda from both sides makes it difficult to ascertain what the heck is going on over there. So you have to be careful where you get your information from to ensure that it is valid, as the news during wartime can be dubious. Since all media outlets are biased, the worst possible option is to watch a single channel. I try to use direct sources, so last night I watched a translated speech that President Putin made to the Duma, one of the chambers of Russian parliament, similar to our Congress. Let's go over the speech, because I think the contrast between how the president of Russia thinks and how the West thinks greatly differ. I find it interesting that Putin himself does not consider this to be a war, let alone an invasion of a sovereign nation. He calls it a security operation or a special military operation. Why doesn't he use the word war? Clearly, Putin invaded his neighboring country for no apparent reason, and an invasion is an act of war. Well, this is the first difference between how the West has been conditioned to view this war and how Putin and the Russians view it. You see, the Russians do not consider the areas that they sent the military into to be Ukrainian. According to Russia, the people who live in the area of Donetsk, Luhansk, and a few other unpronounceable oblasts voted in a referendum to become a part of Russia. The West sees these regions as Russia-occupied Ukraine, while Russia sees them as part of Russia, as they speak Russian and allegedly voted to join the Russian Federation. You can now see how Russia and Putin thinks that sending troops into these areas is not an act of war, because you can't invade a territory that you already own. Putin said a few things in his speech that were of note. He discussed how the West always needs to be going to war, going to one war or another since World War II, and have military bases all over the world. He thinks NATO has been gearing up for a direct war with Russia since 2014, and that we purposely staged a coup in Kiev in 2014 to depose the pro-Russian installed leader for a Western puppet. They think that we've been arming Ukraine since 2014, and Putin believes that the West has been expanding NATO closer to Russia's doorstep, which was supposed to be off the table when the Soviet Union fell. Putin claims that he is not at war with the Ukrainian people, and that they are merely hostages to the West. He then went into a large diatribe against Western social norms, bashed the Western church for having no teeth, and said that Russia wants nothing to do with the westernized cultural degradation that is one of the major reasons a war must be fought, because this chaos was on their borders. This to me is blatant Russian propaganda aimed at getting the right-wing Westerners on the side of Russia, and it to some degree is working. The Western culture has gone pretty far off the edge, and I kind of see what he's talking about, but this is a masterful way of using social issues to fight a propaganda war. He claims that the West is trying to shake our society. This, of course, is hogwash, as the West does not care one bit about their society. He then got to the crux of what I wanted to discuss with you, the weapons programs. He claims that Russian Federation will subsidize the housing cost of workers producing armaments for the military operation. In other words, they're going to be stepping up weapons production. Could this spur an arms race between the world powers, yet again, not seen on a level since the Cold War? I think it already has, but it could get even more and more out of hand. If Russia is stepping it up, the Western military-industrial complex will step up production as well. I don't think this war is going anywhere anytime soon. It could potentially be a good idea to invest in an aerospace and defense fund. I won't recommend a ticker symbol, since there's quite a few of them out there and most seem to have similar allocations. But these stocks are mostly at all-time highs right now. It seems to be priced fairly, however, all things considered. If you want to invest in individual stocks, I recommend the big ones that most of you already know: Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop, Raytheon, General Dynamics. If the war continues or likely escalates, these stocks are where you want to be. Wherever the sabers start rattling, which is all over the place now since the US continues to get into a new war all the time, the flagship defense aerospace stocks prove to be a good investment. Putin also has brought up the Russian economy, which interestingly has done a lot better than we thought. This is the big story here, guys. It can get a little frightening if things keep going the way that it has been. Russia is an oil-producing country, and the world trades oil in dollars only. It is called the petrodollar system. Well, this came to a halt for Russia when they were sanctioned by the West a year ago. Did the West think that Russia was just going to stop trading its oil? Do we think that countries like India wouldn't step up to the plate to ensure that 12% of the world's oil supply was able to be sold? Well, that is exactly what happened. Instead of Russia selling the oil directly to Europe, they now sell it to India or some other go-between, and then they sell it to Europe at an inflated price. This is why Europe is suffering from such high energy bills. The leaders of the West say that the energy price inflation is caused by the war in Ukraine, but a more direct cause are the sanctions that were imposed on Russia. The Europeans are hurting themselves in an attempt to financially cripple Russia while trying to save Ukraine, but it isn't hurting Russia. The Russian economy was thought to decline 25% this year, but only declined 2%, according to Putin. That is a massive miscalculation by the powers that be in the West. Putin said it himself. We have made ourselves independent of the West. People don't understand how bad Russia skirting the petrodollar system is for America. But it is worse than that, because it isn't just Russia deciding to skirt around it. We did this ourselves. We kicked them off the petrodollar. America is only powerful because we have the world's reserve currency. And the only reason that we have the world's reserve currency is that the world trades oil in dollars. If other countries realize that America is in fact a paper tiger, allowing oil-producing countries to trade their oil in currencies other than dollars, then that could lead to the end of the petrodollar, the end of the dollar as a reserve currency, and then guess what? The end of America as a world power. Great job.